Hello, my name is Yuki Teo. Presentation today is regards to local meteorological mechanism and processes on climate change. I am taking Singapore as an example to understand how the country works towards climate changes, challenges, and what do the country do to overcome climate change. Before we go into the topic, let's understand a little bit about Singapore. It is an island surrounded by the sea. The country is so small that it's hardly spotted in the world map. Let us understand the climate in Singapore due to the location and position. Singapore is located at 1.3521 degree north and 103.8198 degree east. It is also only 1.52 km north of the equator. Being positioned near the equator and has a typically tropical climate, I classify with three high elements throughout the year: high amount of rainfall, high and almost similar temperature, resulting high humidity. The seasons in Singapore. This chart is taken from the Meteorological Service Singapore, the climate of Singapore. Singapore climate is characterized by two monsoon seasons. It is either wet or dry. Monsoon surge typically falls in the December to the early March. This is the period of time where we have continuous moderate to heavy rain first half of the season, usually from December to early January. Also, showers develop during the afternoon and early evening. Late March to May is the inter-monsoon period. Sometimes there are heavy thunderstorms occur in the afternoon and early evening, but most of the time it's hot afternoon with a maximum temperature above 32 degrees Celsius. During southwest monsoon season, which is in the period of June to September, prevailing winds southeasterly to southerly. Occasionally, Sumatra squalls with wind gusts of 40 to 80 km per hour happens before dawn and the middays. It is common to have quick showers or thunderstorms in the afternoon. Towards the end of the year, inter-monsoon period that falls in October to November, there is generally more rain compared to the inter-monsoon period early in the year, where you have more heavy thunderstorms occurs in the afternoon and early evening. Singapore being an island, there is some climate influenced by the proximity of the sea, as water has a great heat capacity than the surface of the land. Greater amount of heat is formed close to the coastal. Therefore, during noontime, coastal are often relieved by sea breeze. This data is taken from Changi Climate Station. It shows the mean monthly temperature variation in degrees Celsius from 1981 to 2010. Singapore is considered a tropical climate country. As you can see, the temperature does not vary a lot from month to month. The daily temperature average range from 23 to 25 degrees Celsius at night and 31 to 33 degrees Celsius in the day. Usually during May and June will be the warmest month versus December and January shall be the coolest month. This chart shows an hourly variation of relative humidity of each month since 1981 to 2010. Relative humidity does not vary a lot in this chart from month to month. However, daily vary marked from morning just before sunrise of more than 90% and falling to almost 60% in the midday when there is no rain. The mean annual relative humidity is 83.9%, and it could reach as high as 100% when long periods of rain occur. Let us take a look at the past climate trend. This temperature records shows that temperature of the island has become more warm over the decades, and notably in the mid-1970s as urbanization took place. Mean surface air temperature has risen by an average of 0.25 degrees Celsius per decade from 1948 to today. The rate of increase is double of the global temperature rate of 0.12 degrees Celsius per decade from 1521 to 2012. This is due to the increase of human activities. Greenhouse gas concentration will also be increasing on par. Out of the 10 warmest years record, 8 will occur in the 21st century since 1997. The high temperature trend in Singapore could also be influenced by the neighboring countries' man-made global warming effect. According to the table database on Tengah Station, it shows that annual number of warm day and night increases per decade by more than 11 days. And the annual number of cool day and night are getting lesser. This record shows the top 10 warmest year, and as you can see, it starts from 1997, and the rest are mostly happened in the 21st century. Singapore's year-to-year rainfall is highly variable. However, on a long-term basis, annual rainfall total of Singapore since 1980 has steadily increased at an average rate of 97 millimeters per decade. Based on the past climate trends in Singapore, it is obvious that the surface air temperature and the frequency of heavy rainfall has increased over the years. As the climate system is complex, these trend patterns may not be the same in the future. Therefore, relying on more sophisticated tools for climate projection is necessary in order to make plans and changes accordingly for adaptation. When urbanization takes place, the country started from merely a million population in 1960. The population has been increasing with a million over 5 decades. The country has now, as of 2019, a 5.6 million population. I am now going onto the field to find out what are the things that contribute to the climate change challenges. In the 1960s, there are only the shophouses with 1 to 3 story high. They are usually used for residential and commercial use. Today in the 21st century, they are taken over by many high-rise buildings, and most of the shophouses are converted into commercial usage. Being a tropical country, air conditioning is a must for almost every household. This particular shophouse is converted to a hotel where AC is retrofitted to cater to the usage. Energy-intensive appliances cause emissions that contribute to high temperature. The more AC usage, the higher the emission, the warmer the atmosphere gets. As you can see here, the temperature read at 51.2 degrees Celsius. This is mostly due to the heat that is trapped in the ground. While under the shade, when direct sunlight shines onto the coverage, there is only a little cooling effect. The temperature shows 47.3 degrees Celsius. On the contrary, coverage without direct sunlight provide a much cooler condition. As urbanization takes place, population increase, the building and roads has taken over the primary forestation. This results to more heat trapped in the roads of asphalts and buildings of concrete. So, what is Singapore doing now and plan to do in the future to control climate change challenges? Now that high temperature is unavoidable, to prevent the extremely hot, humid climate affecting human well-being, there are a few things that Singapore is doing. Spacing out the buildings so that there is enough space in between the buildings. Implementing covered linkway, connecting from places to places. Planting a lot of greens everywhere in the city to cool the city as much as possible. And how do Singapore cut down carbon emission? Control vehicle ownership by limiting the number of cars on the road, offering very accessible and well-connected public transport system that encourage the use than owning a vehicle. Singapore generates 80% of the electricity from natural gas, and by pricing energy at its market cost, encourage the user to use energy wisely. What are the current changes that Singapore is doing? 80% of the population live in a public housing provided by the government, and that include myself. Public housing, aka HDB, started in 1960s. Some new energy savings plans are implemented for these old estates. Solar panels are installed on the rooftop to supply electricity for the building itself. The common lightings are installed with the sensor to save energy when unused in the wee hours. Rainwater harvesting are implemented so that this water will be used for common area cleaning. Changing the street lamps to solar powered and a more energy efficiency ones. Now we come into the future planning of Singapore. Usage of the sparse land in Singapore is crucial. It has to be well planned to fully utilize the space available. Towards developing a new town, there is a plan for a car-free town centre. By integrating all necessary amenities within reach with public transport around the town. It is also dubbed as a forest town, where roads and vehicles will run beneath it. Residents will be surrounded by greeneries. Cycling and walking will be able to access to the amenities. The plan is to discourage the use of self-owned vehicle to bring down the carbon emission. Going into a green future, in the planning, urban environmental modeling analysis helps planner to plan and lay out the buildings to optimize wind flow and minimize the heat gain for a more comfortable and sustainable living environment. Many smart home solutions are also introduced, like eco-potato, an electric vehicle-ready car park, smart lighting and solar-ready roof, elevator energy regeneration system, and smart water irrigation. There is also a plan to bring back the forest. As sea level increase over the years, there is also a plan to elevate the ground to overcome the future climate change challenges. In conclusion, Singapore is developing constantly to adapt to the climate change. She has always placed a high priority on environmental issue as part of its aim to create a clean and green city since independence in 1965. Singapore has a vision to be a climate resilient global city that is well positioned for green growth, providing a comfortable and livable environment despite the harsh climate change. The effort to reduce a long-term carbon emission will be challenging. The size of Singapore limits its ability to draw on alternative energy such as offshore wind or nuclear. Nonetheless, she will enhance energy efficiency effort and develop low carbon technologies to overcome the constraint. The world does not have the luxury of time for debate on the cause of climate change. Fast and quick action is required to get ready for the change. In fact, due to the climate change, rainfall has been more intense in the recent years. Flood and water management will be even more important than ever. All these unforeseeable events may lead to volatile global food prices and disruption to business supply chain. This will affect the business activities in Singapore and the food import. In the meantime, Singapore is working on a lot of R&D to climate change solution for the neighboring countries in order to help them to overcome the climate issue. Lastly, a quote by a foreigner who has been working in Singapore Every photo I take, there is green in the picture. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this 15 minutes presentation that I have for climate change in Singapore.